Yeah, I thank you for bringing that up. I mean, it's been amazing to say the least. Just being in that process of okay, finding the location, and what I'll bring up with that specifically on where it's located, because it's a conversation that I've had now for like the last month since we've been going into the process of opening and painting and organizing things. And it's like, wow, I was having this conversation with one of my brothers, and I was like, man, if I would have listened to the things that my mom was saying growing up or my parents were saying growing up, I wouldn't have even found myself in this environment. And funny enough, now through the process of creating this in a space, which is a creative space for many people, like-minded individuals, between designers or artists to come and just link and have a like a network of mastermind. Essentially, that's what we're trying to create. And a lot of what I'm able to see in this space now, I saw in a space growing up when I was a kid that I was always involved in. They sold skateboards. It was a local shop. They sold skateboards, BMX bikes. It was a community center for a lot of the kids too growing up. And it's funny because it was in a different part of town. It was in or a different city really. It was in Clifton. So an area where I grew up in and I felt connected with. And when the shop was there, maybe because I was one of the first people to ever visit that shop and feel that connection to everybody that was in the environment, it was it was like a piece of me was taken away once they moved. But funny enough, they left and went to their roots, which is Patterson, where I'm actually from and where I was born and raised, where I went to school, XYZ. So being that they were in the town over initially and then they moved into their roots, Patterson, because they had a store there prior to being in Clifton, I also felt like, man, now everybody else, and I was conflicted. I was young, so I didn't understand. I had this mentality of, oh man, like now everybody else is gonna know about this place, and this was our place. This was like the environment that nobody knew about. But if you knew about it, it's because you were part of this family. And so it was a perspective that over the years I've allowed myself to outgrow and reflect on and realize that I want to be able to serve as many people as I can possible. And as a kid, I didn't realize that that's what the owners were doing, going back to their roots, going back into Patterson, and really being in there because it was a center where they sold things that people in that area really it catered to them, between graffitis, things, and records, like vinyls and stuff like that, showcases for different artists to come through and just, have a live performance, show off their talents. Though that was the environment that they created, and I was too nearsighted maybe for to be able to see past what they were doing. Like, wow, they're trying to make this something massive. And now I find myself speaking to these individuals in the neighborhood, in the community where the store is located, and I'm just there reflecting like, wow, had I not allowed myself to grow out of that mentality, I probably would have never allowed myself to be in an environment like where I'm at right now, because it's in the middle of, you know, a lot of per se violence, or an environment that you most people wouldn't want to put their store in, because again, these different constructs that have been created in society, they allow you to think you can't achieve something in these spaces. And once I realized that I have a lot more in common to the guy that's on the corner also handling his business and hustling in the way that he hustles, we're also very similar in age, but we're similar in the sense that I am him and he is me. But if I find that bridge to be able to gap that and understand that, like, we just walk two different paths, and I'm nobody to judge the path that he was given or that he had to walk on, because maybe he didn't have another way out like I did. You know what I mean? To find myself now back into the spot where anybody else would have told me to run away from, and I find myself right in the middle of that right now. So I think that it's been very liberating to understand that and to really embrace it and see where it goes from there, because we're only now a day into the grand opening, and I see this going incredibly far as long as we stay true to that understanding. Like, just because of where we're at doesn't mean that, like, we don't have a duty and a service to give to these people in this environment, and be able to have them see something different that maybe they've never seen before in that particular in that particular dynamic. So I feel like that's a lot of what I've been kind of like reflecting on over the last month or so, and what I'm so grateful for now.
That's huge. Number one, think about how all those experiences from your childhood, it all led up to the transformation of what has just been born and manifested. So it's like you were meant to go through that. And that store was meant to move, because without that store moving, then you never have the disattachment. And without that disattachment, then you don't have the understanding. And then what we were talking about prior, right, was about being able to see. So those store owners, because they've been doing it for such a long time, they were able to see. And they were able to see the bigger impact and the bigger picture. Sure. And imagine the courage they had, right, to leave a successful location, to want to move, to go to the roots, because end of the day, even though nobody understood them, that's what they did.
Yeah.
That takes real confidence, real courage, and that takes real knowing. Now, fast forward, think about everything that you've been, working on this past year when it comes to working on yourself.
Right.
The first thing I like to point out, think about the clarity that you have.
Yeah.
Think about understanding fear. So when it comes to doing this process, you have no fear, because you understand that life is born and what you don't know and what makes you uncomfortable. So you've become comfortable with not knowing and being in a situation of uncomfortableness, because it doesn't mean that it's going to reflect on you being uncomfortable, because that within you no longer exists. You've already brought order to your life, so now you're here to bring order to other areas, environments of chaos.
Certainly.
Because you've become so much. And the fact that you're gonna go and you're looking not to go the easy way, you're looking to go the hard way, and you want to become, the best way to put it is you want to become one of those locations that becomes iconic for a community. Certainly. To bring change, to make it flourish, so that the kids in that area can see that, hey, listen, there is another route. There are other routes out there. Yeah. End of the day, it's not about people doing what you want them to do, or them, going in the same direction as you, but letting the kids know that they have a choice.
Certainly.
Letting the community knows that there's an establishment, there's an energy, there's an environment that's coming that cares about that community, that wants to lift that community, and that will hopefully attract other entrepreneurs into that community because of the work being done, because the events being done. I know me and Shanae, we're gonna go visit you because we're gonna go do business with you guys. Because it's relationships. That's what life is. We're talking about it today because of the amazing heart you have. Relationships. So of course, we are all interested, because you're also part of this community and many others. So who's not interested in your heart and what you're doing and what you're looking to establish? And look at the amount of support that you're gonna have. Because what event are you gonna throw that we're all not gonna be there? Especially when you're looking to service people. Yeah. When you're looking to bring environment to a community that's what you feel is missing, and that with that spark, there could be a big flame. And now you're gathering all your relationships, right? Because you're starting this little fire, and you're gathering all your relationships to bring wood to add to the fire. To go and light the human spirit of that community. And, to me, I'm only seeing your beginning. Because it's like anything in life. You went from helping yourself, you went to then becoming successful, and now you're going to touching on the community, right? So now we're talking about the town, and eventually from town to state, and then from state to country, and then world. You know, that's the order.
Yeah, that's the goal.
You know, like that. It's a part of the journey. And if we just said that it takes 7 to 10 years for the establishment of a journey, right? For the establishment of finding our paths and sticking to it, then we have another 20 to 30 years to grow it. You know, and see how far it goes. Because, like, this is another thing. I think a lot of people have a misconception of wealth, because wealth is not what you're building for yourself. You know, those are your riches.
Okay.
Wealth is what you're passing on. That's legacy.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it means to have legacy. And I think a lot of people, they think legacy as in the perspective of being remembered, but I just don't even think it matters about being remembered. I think what matters is that you're able to build a wealth that really gives to people to make people's lives better.
Okay, yeah, of course.
Because ultimately, you know, it's about making the world more joyous. And to also have an understanding that we are coming from a place of abundance, not scarcity. Because, again, if you look back, you know, 100 to 200 years, we're living in better conditions.
Yeah.
You know, we need to get back to that place that we really believe in humanity. You know, like to have faith in humanity, because as human beings, only we can make things better.
Yeah.
And not to say, you know, in the sense as in, you know, only we can make things better, but I mean, we can make things better by getting out of our own way. Not doing things for self-interest. Thinking about doing things for the interest of others. And then see what happens. See what's born.
Yeah.
Do something that's different.
Yeah, I think it's definitely more maybe not difficult to do things for other people, but I feel like it's more rewarding, and people don't miss that because their self-interest kicks in, and so they limit the things that can come to them because they don't focus on what they're giving to others first.
Well, is it that they miss it, or they never experience it, so it's not in them?
Right.
Because you can't give what you don't have. And, you know, there are certain things that we don't have because we've never lived it. We've never experienced it. So it takes people like you who are making a statement to go do in Patterson, to go take action in Patterson and go give in Patterson, so people from Patterson can experience that. An entrepreneur that's not in there for self-interest, but all because they want to make Patterson a landmark. Yeah. They want to make Patterson a place to be. And not in the references of making Patterson a place to be with the idea of, you know, corporation making money, but making Patterson a place to be where entrepreneurs, business owners, and community can do well and flourish. And then you could bring back the ideas of reading, writing, orating, conversations, dialogues, developing. You know, not for big business, but in the sense for people. So people can have more enriched lives. Because the reality is, all they're missing is information. They're missing information.
Yeah.
And you're establishing a place that has the possibility to bring that information in. And let's go further. Not that they're doing anything wrong, because God knows if you're alive, if you're conscious, that's the blessing. How lucky are we just to be conscious, to take the breath? So automatically, they already have everything. Yeah. We just want to bring more.